When the klaxon sounded throughout the boat, all crew members not on duty responded by going to their battle stations, and the glances shared in the control room became focused on their various displays. Maneuvering orders were given, and the ambush left its berth faster than any harbor pilot would have appreciated. That had been the beginning of the longest deployment of any nuclear submarine, and Captain Byrne had settled into the job. With no clearly defined mission, they had patrolled the southern coast of the United Kingdom near the English Channel, while the other two submarines had gone north. Over the years, they had brief contact with a few surface ships, but the closest thing to real orders had been encrypted messages to simply protect their country from invasion. That was clear enough to the crew of the ambush, but the arrival of the Americans had been a welcome distraction. When the chief had approached him and described a particularly brutal group of degenerates who occupied a derelict tanker named Wari, he could have said it wasn't his responsibility, but he knew the apocalypse would never truly end if they didn't eliminate the people who had capitalized on the misery of others. He wished he could aid the chief with his quest in America, but a submarine wouldn't be much help where they were going. At least he could help with the Wari. Besides, he felt like his crew had displayed a sense of purpose since meeting the Americans, and morale was high. Another act of justice might be just what they needed. It didn't take long for the HMS Ambush to find its target, but Captain Byrne didn't rush in for the kill. At periscope depth, the silent submarine circled the rusty tanker, and he surveyed the spectacle from a distance. The chief stood across from him, waiting for his reaction. Unlike the old submarine days when the man at the periscope was the only one to see the outside world, the view through the scope was being fed to a monitor where everyone present could see what had made the captain speechless. The pirates on the Wari had been busy. There were almost a dozen small sailboats and 4 luxury yachts tied up at the makeshift dock. Damage to the boats was evidence that not all of them had surrendered without a fight, but there was little doubt that the crews and passengers of those boats were now either dead or occupying space in the cages high above the deck of the tanker. Even as they watched, a fishing boat was leaving the dock and trolling live bait behind it. But the biggest surprise was the scene that was playing out on the far side of the tanker. The pirates were rapidly closing in on a new victim. Captain Byrne ordered his crew to make flank speed on a course that would intercept the pirates as he turned toward the chief. "Sometimes justice should be delivered face to face," he said. The chief didn't need to ask him what they were doing, and he had a new appreciation for Byrne as the submarine surged to a position that would place them in the direct path of the pirates. "This is going to be good," said the chief. "Surface the boat," ordered Captain Byrne, and since they were already shallow, the sail broached the surface in seconds. The massive bulk of the ambush appeared in front of the pirates so suddenly that they were forced to throw their craft into a hard turn to port. The combination of their turn and the swells created by the water displaced by the submarine caused a wave to wash across both boats, but it was like a bug hitting the windshield of a car. The small boat was dragged into the strong current that ran alongside the submarine, and its hull was ripped apart. Captain Byrne ordered, "All stop! Prepare to recover survivors." "Captain?" asked the chief. Before the chief could ask why they were going to rescue the pirates, Captain Byrne cut him off and gave the rest of his orders to the senior chief petty officer. "Open the small arms locker and issue rifles to 6 men designated for disciplinary action. I shall pronounce the sentence myself." Iris had quietly come into the control room and watched without saying anything, but as the chief petty officer announced over the interior communications system for specific sailors to report for duty at the small arms locker, she got out of the way by moving further inside and closer to her husband. "What are they doing?" she asked. "They're doing it the right way," he answered. "He's given them the dignity of a firing squad. He'll be able to live with executing them by first explaining why they're being shot."